Wow, does that ever bring back memories, Mr. Knuckey? 2 years ago in a few weeks. Just what do you think about when you see that video footage?
Oh my gosh, I almost didn't make it. Well, I should have eaten more, like you guys always told me.
Nutrition does play a fairly important thing. And first man under 12 hours over the age of 70. Part of what we wanted to do, Bob, is catch up with you 2 years later. You're now 72 years of age, new goals. But this particular section really is to talk just a little bit about what are the secrets that keep you racing in your 60s, in your 70s, and maybe even go back to Hawaii when you're 75 years of age, go after another world record. What are some of the things that you've had to do from being one of those kind of great marathoners in your 30s as a school teacher to now having to realize that you're not the exact same animal you were when you were 50 or 55?
I think the key to it all was cross training, not just focusing on the running, but incorporating the biking as well as eventually the swimming. And also being part of C3, having access to all that yoga and having physio people that like me and look after me. And I have to run there whenever I get something niggly that's going on for more than 2 or 3 days. And I find that getting the physio gets rid of those problems within half the time if I let my body heal by itself.
I know that as a past runner, and if people had running as part of their background, they love to run. They want to run 5 days a week, 6 days a week. It was a big issue, as you can recall, you and I kind of in the debate back and forth about how much running you should be doing, as we're approaching that kind of 70th birthday. Talk about, your kind of maybe lack of trust, let's say, or desire to do more running in the battle that the two of us had, and eventually kind of the compromise we came up with.
Absolutely. I felt that I wasn't doing enough, but then once again, I didn't want to sneak it in. You already caught me once doing that on that, going up to that golf course the day before a big race. So yeah, I found that just the long runs that we did were enough. Plus the fact that I kept in the back of my mind, I had like 1,000,000 miles under my belt. So just the longest run was basically 30K in that 100-degree heat. And that gave me the confidence, even though I knew I had another 12 to go, and they weren't the prettiest 12, but thanks to you conscripting Jose to keep me company, keep my thoughts positive for that last 12 kilometers was a big send. But yoga with Karen, the weightlifting in the winter season, I could see my running was going downhill. It went downhill from 50, and then I noticed a change again. And at 70, I was noticing a change. But so it's all now maintaining the swim, maintaining the bike, maintaining the run. I still feel like I'm improving on my run from Hawaii for the last 2 years.
Well, one of the things that I have talked to a lot of the older athletes I work with is the importance of, looking at your rate of decay, not a nice word necessarily, but looking at your rate of decay being less than your competition. So, you're going to expect that a 65-year-old is probably not going to be as fast as a 60-year-old, and a 70-year-old may be slower than a 60-year-old. But that if you can have that rate of decay be pretty close to just maybe maintaining and maybe a third or a half of a percent decay versus 2 or 3%, suddenly you're looking much better relative to your competition, because they went down 3% last year. You only went down by a half a percent. So it's a really important element for aging athletes. Did you do weights when you were in your 40s, or is it something that you really kind of started to add in as you got older?
I did not do a lot of weights. I did more stretching then than I do now, which probably is not a good thing. I should be continuing that as well. But when I first started running, I was a gymnast. I did a lot of strength training back then. During the running and the marathon times that I had, there was not a lot of weightlifting. But now that I noticed, after 50, I noticed my strength declining. The weightlifting and the yoga has really helped with the flexibility and the strength.
Talk a little bit about water running. Lots of people think it's something you do when you get injured. I know, Reed Coolsad and many others that I know, every time they get injured in running, they start to water run. But we incorporated in your program and lots of our athletes, even our juniors, to water run, 2 or 3 days a week, particularly in the summer when we had the quarry access so much easier to get in. Just your thoughts on where that may have played some benefit for you.
Definitely. It has helped me a lot. It's resistance training. It's flexibility training in the water. I like it a lot because I get to think while I'm doing it. A lot of people find it boring. I'm lucky that I don't find it boring. And pretty much after every swim in the quarry this summer, I would water run 400 to 600 meters, which is probably not a lot. I used to see Lisa Bentley water running a lot when I was swimming in Orangeville, and Brittany Webster, those two animals, they water ran a lot, and I really found it very beneficial. I do it a lot.
How important is it just setting mindset? You have the luxury that you're around some younger athletes all the way down into the teens, and then some great age groupers in their 30s and 40s and 50s, so forth. All younger than you, but having said, they all have big goals, wanting to go to world championships, wanting to maybe make future Olympic teams. How valuable do you find that to be in that kind of an environment of seeing other motivated people around you, the Denise Rosses of the world?
Definitely. I love to compete, and I'm very A-type personality, and me wanting to keep up with 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds, it's beneficial, really beneficial for me, but sometimes I overdo it, and I've got to be careful. Like we were in Florida there a year ago, and I was running on the golf course with the juniors. That set me back a little bit.
Common sense has never been your highest priority, so I can say that having spent lots of hours in time with you. Last question as we kind of bring this to a closure. You're 72. People would say, how can a guy still be motivated at 71 or 72? I mean, you and I have started talking about, when you hit 75 for Ironman 3 years down the road. Next year in Edmonton, the only world championship that you don't have a gold for right now is at the Olympic distance. Do those things continue to drive your behavior, your motivation when you have a goal sitting on a window saying, next year is Edmonton and maybe 2 years after that is Hawaii? Is that still valuable and important to you?
Well, I think you're talking more about Hawaii when I turn 75 than I am. But I did look up the record, which was set in 2018, 13:06. And that's got a little bug in my head. I think
do you think you could become the first 75-year-old to break 13 hours then?
You know what? It depends on the wind.
Sure.
It was the record was set on a non-wind year, and it's the year that I had a good one too. So we've got to just be careful and not kill myself, not push too hard, but get the work in. That's very important, so that you're confident enough that you can do it.
Barrie, we have a couple questions from the community, Barrie.
Okay, go ahead.
This question is from Sheldon, one of the organizers and presenters. And he asks, Bob, what are the best tips for the aging athletes that you have found or things that you do to reduce your risk of injury and keep your strength to weight ratio as best as possible as an aging athlete?
Well, you have to keep an eye on your weight. You can't let it get out of control. But with the amount of training that we do, that usually is not a problem. Physio is really important, but the most important thing is listening to your body. And when your body tells you to back off, it's been a long lesson. I usually hurt myself 3 times before I listen to my body and back off. And also, you've got to listen to your coach, because if he hadn't held me back on the running for Hawaii, I probably would have been running 70, 80 kilometers a week. Whereas for Hawaii, I was doing the long runs, but I was only running about 50, 60 kilometers a week.
Thank you. Our next question, Barry and Bob, is from Cheryl on nutrition. And it's interesting, Bob, as a former roommate, I know that your nutrition habits can be interesting at best. But how do you ensure that through your training, what do you do and what tips can you give the aging athletes to ensure that your nutrition is optimal for you?
Don't eat like I do. That's the first rule. I'm very bad in that department. Throughout the day, I will have 2 good meals. Lunch is usually not one of them. Trying not to eat too late in the evening helps with the weight. I do a lot of fast food, and my favorite food group is ice cream. I sort of use that as a reward for all the training that I do. But you have to do what works for you. And apparently fast food works for me.
You and a few other athletes.
Sorry, Cheryl.
Bob, I want to thank you for taking time today. You continue to inspire. We'll put a link at the end of the show to the entire documentary that Makarla did, the 45 minutes of watching your whole year leading up to Hawaii, and then that last 45 seconds of gruesome we got to see to start off. And I'm looking forward to 2021 when we get to see you race at a World Championships and maybe in Hawaii a couple years after that.
Maybe. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, John.